Our top story tonight, Pooler residents packed City Hall as developers unveiled plans for a major new mixed-use project.
While developers say the project could create a new community hub, many neighbors say Pooler is already stretched thin. WSAV's Jillian Coles is at the meeting and has more on the concerns being raised.
Tension was high from the first minute of the meeting here at Pooler City Hall. The company that owns the land says their goal is to build a place for the community to come together. Residents tell me Pooler's already overdeveloped and they have concerns about traffic and flooding.
We have so many hotels already. We have 2 theaters. We have grocery stores. None of this is anything that Pooler needs.
Concerned Pooler neighbors out in full force sharing their displeasure about a new plan that would add what they call an overdeveloped city. Pooler Forest Places is proposing a plan to turn over 100 acres of land at the intersection of Pooler Parkway and Pine Barren Road into a mixed-use development. Hotels, retail stores, a grocery store, and an amphitheater would be included. The land is already zoned for commercial use, but the city would have to remove a current ordinance before the mixed-use proposal could become reality. On Monday, General Partner Robert Forrest asked residents to share their thoughts from what food and music to arts and culture development they would like to see.
There's not this size of piece of land anywhere in Pooler left where it would make sense. Right close to the highway, good infrastructure already there, and it just seems like it's the right place. The missing piece is the place for people to come together.
Many in the crowd shouted out with concerns about traffic and flooding, 2 issues they say already impact their neighborhoods.
Traffic in Pooler, anybody who lives in Pooler will tell you that traffic is a nightmare. You know, we live right off of Pine Barren into Pooler Parkway. You wait at that light 4 times, and that takes another 10 minutes.
Developers say they've completed a traffic analysis and plan to work with the city on possible road improvements to prevent flooding and other issues if the project moves forward.
I wouldn't say there's anything in hard. No, you get a chance to do one of these right. You take the time it needs. If we get really great feedback and everything's great and everybody agrees, and then that'll be faster. If we got to keep going back to the drawing board, we'll go back to the drawing board.
Forrest says the project would come in phases, with the final phase predicted to be completed by 2023. Forrest says anyone who was not able to attend the meeting can still give their feedback. They say they plan to take all of those comments into consideration before presenting a final plan to Pooler City Council. Reporting in Pooler, Jillian Coles, WSAV News 3. On your side.
New developments in a deadly shooting that claimed the life of a 14-year-old boy in Chatham County. A grand jury has now indicted 2 teenagers in connection with the case. On February 4th, the Chatham County grand jury indicted Marcus Thomas Jr. and Caesar Tompkins Jr. Both are charged with malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, criminal attempt to commit armed robbery, and aggravated assault. Prosecutors say the charges stem from the shooting death of 14-year-old Markel Bush. That shooting happened back on September 18th in the 700 block of West 57th Street. Police say officers found Markel Bush unresponsive inside a home with a gunshot wound. A short time later, officers stopped a car near West 63rd Street in Montgomery that they say was leaving the scene. Marcus Thomas was found inside that vehicle with a non-life-threatening gunshot wound and was taken to the hospital. U.S. Marshals later arrested Thomas, and Caesar Tompkins turned himself in on November 13th.
New tonight, a Savannah senior living complex is facing serious complaints from residents and their families about unsafe and unlivable conditions. Now 2 city aldermen are speaking out after hearing from dozens of residents. Residents at the Veranda and Ramona Raleigh say their concerns have gone unanswered for months, from leaky dishwashers to broken stoves to no heat during cold winter months. Seniors and their families say they are being charged increasing rent without receiving basic necessities. Alderman Dietrich Leggett and Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryan say they're stepping in to advocate for the residents, warning that city leaders need to closely monitor who is entrusted with future senior housing.
We want to make sure that their voices don't go silent. We want to make sure that we just don't knock on their doors for election time. These people are really struggling. I've seen too many tears come out of this building in the past couple of hours.
For 10 months, I didn't have a dryer. And now the dryer that they replaced after 10 months, that is also broke down. I have a a dishwasher, it does not work. It just pours water out on the floor.
We have reached out to both complexes for comments and have not heard back. Meanwhile, city leaders say they will continue monitoring conditions at the complexes and advocate for improvements as winter continues while keeping an eye on future senior housing developments in Savannah.
Also new tonight, we've been telling you about how the city of Statesboro has begun discussions about potentially adding a fire fee. WSAV's Evan Smoke attended a town hall this evening and has more on how it could affect your wallet.
Residents came here to Statesboro City Hall tonight to learn more about a potential new line item that could be coming to their utility bills later this year. City Fire Chief Tim Grams and consultant Ed Diatomasso walked attendees through the proposed fire fee, including how much it could cost and who would have to pay it. Graham says the fee would help create a more reliable funding source as the city continues to grow.
I think the biggest thing it does is that it provides a stable revenue source that will grow with our community. As you know, Statesboro has underwent a tremendous amount of growth over the past several years.
City leaders also made it clear this fee is being considered instead of a millage rate increase. They say that's because it would apply to everyone inside city limits, including tax-exempt properties. Grams was asked if his department responds to a lot of calls at those locations.
I do, and I think that the term equitable, it fits perfectly. Those entities contribute to the community. We certainly don't want to suggest otherwise, but they do utilize a service that they do not help fund.
After the presentation, residents had plenty of questions. One major concern, why more money is needed even though the fire department's coverage area shrank after a fire services contract with Bullitt County ended last year.
Our service needs are still focused on the city of Statesboro. So even though we don't have that additional area to cover, does not mean that the risk or the needs of Statesboro has diminished.
Monday marked the first town hall on the fire fee subject, with many more on the way according to city staff, ahead of any possible city council vote. Reporting in Statesboro, Evan Smoke, WSAV News 3, on your side.
In the low country, a Bluffton neighborhood is nearly divided over a controversial deer culling program. At Rose Hill Plantation, a neighborhood-wide vote nearly split down the middle approved the culling of 141 deer. A team of qualified sharpshooters hired by the neighborhood's Property Owners Association and required under the SCDNR program will use suppressed weapons to reduce the deer population. Some neighbors say they don't trust the POA's hiring decisions, calling the survey and permitting process questionable.
Fortunate thing with culling is everything is a guideline. There really aren't laws with culling.
I have homeowners who call me and say, we're hearing gunshots right now. We're hearing trucks driving back and forth. And it's all hours of the night. So it's keeping some homeowners up.
SCDNR says all surveys and permits were verified before the culling began. They also expect proof that the deer will be processed and donated to a local food pantry. Beyond that, the department says authority over the operation largely falls on the Property Owners Association.
South Carolina has consistently ranked at or near the top nationwide for DUI arrests and DUI-related deaths over the past decade. Now, one Lowcountry lawmaker says it is time for change. As WSAV's Andrew Davis reports, the proposal would update state law in an effort to give prosecutors and law enforcement more tools.
A lot of bad outcomes in South Carolina in terms of drunk driving deaths, in terms of acquittals in DUI proceedings, because there are a lot of loopholes in our code that defense attorneys take advantage of.
That's why Senator Tom Davis sponsored a bill designed to close those loopholes.
If there's any interruption at all in those body cameras, or if there's any time when that body camera, gets off of the motorist and veers away and for a moment is focused on something else, those are grounds to have the video thrown out entirely.
This legislation isn't just about body cameras. The overhaul of state law would make criminal penalties more severe and expand who's allowed to draw blood to determine an alcohol level. And any plea deals would have to be heard in a courtroom by a judge. Solicitor Duffy Stone says the current DUI statute is too complicated and leads to problems for prosecutors.
So you're talking about 10 pages in the South Carolina Code just to explain the crime. when you've got crimes like murder, which is a one sentence.
While attorneys are challenged by the law, Stone says because of the way it's written, it's even harder for law enforcement to enforce and get convictions.
It was drafted with the intent of being tough on drunk drivers. What it ends up being is tough on law enforcement officers, them trying to do their job enforcing the laws.
The bill has already passed the Senate, now is in front of a House committee. While it seems to be a big step forward, Stone says there's a lot of work still to be done.
We're just going to have to wait and see how that bill ends up coming out before I can tell you if it's accomplished its goal or not.
Andrew Davis, WSAV News 3 on your side.